Just Mercy is a 2019 film that tells the story of a man named Walter who is falsely accused of a crime. One night, while returning home to his wife and children, he is stopped by the police and subjected to an intense and invasive identity check. The officers imply that he had an affair with a white woman, causing him to fear for his safety. The news reports that he is the accused in the case of a young woman named Rhonda Morrison. Despite his innocence, he is convicted by a jury and sentenced to life in prison. However, the judge changes the sentence to the death penalty. The film is based on real events and highlights the injustices faced by people of color in the criminal justice system. Bryan Stevenson, a student at Harvard, visits a prison and meets with a man named Davis who has been falsely convicted. They quickly realize they have a lot in common and talk for longer than the allotted time, which upsets the prison's warden. This experience leads Bryan to decide to give up a promising job opportunity and instead work to help individuals like Davis. His parents are not supportive of this decision, with his mother expressing concern for his safety in a state where people like him may face discrimination and backlash for fighting for justice. When Bryan arrives in the city, he goes straight to the building where he had planned to open an office. There, he meets his assistant Tava during a dispute with the manager. When they find out that the company will be defending black people sentenced to death, the building owners refuse to provide them with an office. Ava offers to let Bryan stay at her house since he has nowhere else to go, and she tells him about the many strange cases she's dealt with in her town. It becomes clear that false testimony, fabricated criminal charges, and wrongful convictions are not uncommon. Bryan takes on the first 6 clients from prison and goes to a meeting with their lawyers. Although lawyers are generally not well regarded by the guards, they decide to show the dark-skinned lawyer his stance. They demand that he enter the registration room, and there Bryan meets Herbert, the first prisoner he encounters. It's not clear if he is guilty. He doesn't even try to clear his name. However, the court did not credit his military merits or his mental problems and sentenced the man to death. This is what Bryan intends to change. He continues talking with more prisoners and finally meets Walter. The guy makes it clear that he does not want to communicate with the lawyer, as the last one disappeared as soon as he took all the money from his family and did nothing to protect the prisoner. Walter continues studying the state law on his own, trusting only in himself and helping his cellmates to stay calm and not think about terrifying things. Bryan advises the prisoners to imagine themselves in happier places when they return home. His assistant Tava spends the night researching criminal cases and becomes convinced that there is widespread corruption among the sheriff and the judge. The case that concerns Bryan the most is that of Macmillan, as the accusations are based solely on the testimony of 2 witnesses who were supposedly with Walter on the night of the crime but did not flee when they had the chance. Mayer, one of the witnesses, has spent most of his life in prison and received a lenient sentence for his own crime. The second witness, Bill Lux, claimed to have seen Walter's truck at a dry cleaner's at the time of the accident. Bryan visits the prosecutor, Tommy Chapman, hoping for a fair trial, but is met with resistance and is unable to obtain the complete case file. He continues to gather information and investigate the crime scene. Stevenson realizes that the sheriff is constantly monitoring him. At night, Bryan goes to Walter's family's house where all the neighbors are already waiting for him, and all the kids insist that Walter could not have committed the crime, but all the accusations point against him, including the affair with the victim months before it happened. Additionally, one of the neighbors, young Daryl, spent the whole day with Bill Lux in the workshop, but the boy is afraid to talk about it because the local police can make false accusations against anyone. Stevenson returns to the prison to meet with Walter again. He agrees to work with the lawyer because he has hopes that his case will be reopened. Only before accepting, the man asks him why he wants to help him since it is a small town lost in the middle of nowhere and he works for free with the prisoners. Bryan, remembering his childhood, talks about how he understands what it is to wait for justice and end up finding indifference from others. He sets the day of Herbert's execution, and the Zelda's companions try to cheer the man. Stevenson tries to prepare an appeal, but the prisoner has already accepted his fate. At night, there is a phone call at Eva's house. The person calling on the other end informs him that they have placed a device in the woman's house, and if he doesn't stop helping the insolent lawyer, she and her family will have serious problems. So Bryan offers to withdraw, but she doesn't want to submit to blackmail. The young lawyers try to get more information from the locals about the McMillan case, but almost everyone refuses to talk, with total horror looks to keep Evan's family safe. He rents a house where he installs the office of his law firm, and from there, the couple continues their work helping prisoners from all over the state. Bryan receives a call of the same type that could confirm that bellhooks had no way of seeing Walter's truck at the dry cleaners, so he is accused of perjury and locked up for several days pending clarification. He refuses to help Walter because he doesn't want to end up in jail. The lawyer goes to the sheriff to find out why they stopped the guy, but even there they make him understand that this fight is useless. On the way home at night, the lawyer is arrested by the police, and it is clearly reminded to him once again that it is time for him to end his interest in local affairs, otherwise he could get into serious trouble. The lawyer comes to see Walter, and he sees that his client has not lost hope. The prisoner continues to study criminal law and even finds the strength to make jokes after his client Stevenson meets with Myers, who is the main witness. He confesses in a private conversation that he testified against Walter so that his sentence would be reduced, but when he did, he wasn't warned that the man would be punished with the death penalty. At one point, Myers doubts it, but in the end, he refuses to repeat it in front of the court. Through the court, the lawyer accesses the file where he finds a recording of Myers' interrogation, in which he refuses to lie, but he is given no other option. Together with Ava, the lawyer gathers enough evidence for the case to be reviewed. Herbert cries in his cell as they are about to take him to the electric chair. He turns to support his friend, promising to be by his side mentally as things progress. As he finds out that Herbert's case has not been reviewed, Stevenson comforts his friend and wants to see the accused to support him in his last moments and to encourage his friend. The prisoners pound the bars with iron cups with so much force that the sound reaches the main hall, hearing the support of their comrades. Stevenson returns depressed and realizes that he must save Walter. Otherwise, he will not be able to live knowing that an innocent person has been subjected to the same punishment. The lawyer goes back to Myers and tells him that he has heard the audio recording and reminds the prisoner that the father of 3 children can die because of him. He gives him time to think and asks him to do the right thing and finally tell the truth. A hearing begins in which Myers decides to come forward. At first, the liar is hesitant to tell the truth, but after looking into his friend's eyes, the man testifies honestly and declares that he was not at the dry cleaners with Walter on the night of the crime. Furthermore, Stevenson provides a great deal of new evidence and witnesses who confirm that Walter is not responsible for the death of the girl. The judge allows for a break to analyze the new information. During this time, the guard allows Walter to spend a few minutes with his family, something he has not done in the 6 years he has been in prison. After a break, the judge announces his decision to disregard the new circumstances and return McMillan to his cell to await execution of his sentence. The verdict is a shock to everyone. Walter's son cannot handle it and causes a scandal in the courtroom, causing a commotion. At first, Bryan seems to have lost the case, but after talking to Walter, who still maintains his spirits, the young lawyer decides to continue the fight. He prepares an appeal to the Supreme Court with the hope of involving as many judges and external prosecutors as possible in the case. Bryan becomes involved with the media, appearing on a popular program to talk about the McMillan case. A few months later, the Supreme Court responds by annulling the sentence and is willing to reopen the McMillan case, but the joy quickly fades when the lawyer receives a letter from Chapman requesting a postponement of the Supreme Court hearing to delay the trial. Bryan goes to the prosecutor's house and asks him at least not to interfere in the case and allow a new hearing. The lawyer does not enter his private property or find a way to get rid of the annoying lawyer. On the day of the trial, at the beginning of the hearing, the prosecutor must speak. Everyone expects him to refuse to review the case, but unexpectedly Unexpectedly, he agrees, and the hearing is prolonged for a long time. The president of the Supreme Court examines all the evidence and all the witnesses, as well as the reasons why the first sentence was issued. And a few hours later, he issued a not guilty sentence, and Walter is released directly from the courtroom, unable to believe they won. Walter cries for the overwhelming emotions. When he goes to collect his belongings, his neighbors say goodbye by hitting their iron cups against the bars. After the release, Walter McMillan begins to work with Stevenson, having acquired knowledge during his imprisonment. The boy becomes a great assistant lawyer, and they manage to imprison corrupt judges and the sheriff, thanks to whom many innocent people were sent to the electric chair. Also, thanks to the lawyer and his client, they free those who did not even expect to find justice. What do you think of this movie? Leave your opinion in the comments, and as always, if you like this video, leave a good like and subscribe to this channel to not miss any more videos like this. So that's it for today, and we'll see you in the next video.